also want to thank you so much for being here as part of this very, very important discussion that we're having today. You know, teaching is really, really challenging, and it's especially challenging for newcomers to the field. You know, we come from learning lots of college theory to a student teaching experience, some of us, and then to our own classrooms. And we are all filled with this anticipation to make a difference in the lives of the children that we will teach. So today what I want to do is I want to share my story with you of when I was first hired to teach special education in Chicago Public Schools. So the neighborhood was much like many across our nation. It was one of high poverty, high crime, and it had schools that were challenged by that constantly revolving door of teachers. And I thought I knew what I was getting into, but I was truly shocked when I arrived to set up the 7th grade classroom that I had been hired to teach and learned that I'd instead be the teacher for the kindergarten through 3rd grade students. It was a shock. And you know, the classroom that I was assigned was not previously used as a kindergarten through 3rd grade room, and it took me 3 days just to clean out the rubble. I begged from other teachers to get desks and a bookshelf, and I borrowed academic materials from my colleagues who were less than happy to share the little that they had. But even with those challenges, I was still so excited to set up that classroom and make it be a welcoming place where my students would be motivated and eager to learn. Well, that first day arrived, and I agonized over what I would wear, just as I'm sure many students do. And I arrived at school really early, 7 o'clock, to make sure that there were name tags on my students' desks and that there were, in fact, chairs for them to sit in. And I was instructed to wait outside the front door for my students, and they lined up with their bright, smiling faces looking back at me, and we marched up to the classroom, and I took attendance from the roster. And during that time of taking attendance, a student, a young girl who we'll call Katira, was escorted to my room. And I was so excited to have a little girl because up until this point, all I had were boys. So it was really exciting. But my excitement was not reciprocated. She folded her arms and she refused to even come in the door. And I said, well, you know, I can chase her in. And I said, you know what, Katira, we are doing a classroom puzzle and you are our missing piece and our classroom just won't be complete without you. And she folded her arms again and would not budge. And I had no idea what to do next. You know, I thought my previous experience didn't prepare me for a moment such as this. And I had 11 other students in my classroom who were getting restless. And I was standing in the hall just begging a student to come through the door. And that was just the start of my first day of teaching. So I went home late that afternoon feeling overwhelmed and like a complete failure and wondering if I could even return the next day. I did return the next day and the rest of that week. However, I continued to feel overwhelmed and even started to lack a sense of efficacy. I did not want to be another teacher that came with high hopes and then left the next year or sooner disillusioned by the system. During those first few weeks, I checked my emails periodically, and I even considered searching the job sites to look for another job, either in teaching or out. I was good with either one. But then I noticed an email from someone who said they were going to be my mentor. So Sharon, she became my support system and my lifeline. The support that she gave by coming to my classroom, modeling lessons, observing my instruction, and sharing feedback would help to accelerate my practice so that I could be the best teacher for my students. Sharon listened to my concerns, helping to clarify what the issues really were, and then work towards the next steps that needed to be taken. I started to reflect more on my teaching and my practice through the lens of her expertise, and I worked to find ways to better meet my students at their level of need. So after 2 years of working with Sharon, I was more confident and proficient as a teacher. The practices that she had helped me to quickly develop and implement in my classroom were practices that I continued to use through the years with my students so that they would be successful. And what about Katira, that little girl that stood at my door that first day and wouldn't come in? Well, Sharon even helped me showed me how to assess her reading ability and analyze her classwork so that I could better understand her areas of strength as well as needs of growth. And my greatest joy came when I handed her a book that was at her level and she said to me, "Miss Williams, this book is too easy. I need something harder to read." And one mother even told me that her son never wanted to read before, but then he started bringing home books all the time to read. So hearing that and seeing the positive change in my students was absolutely amazing to me. And Sharon was who had helped me understand how to use those best practices to make a meaningful difference for my students. So after teaching for over 5 years as a special educator, I am now in my second year as a mentor for 12 beginning special education teachers in Chicago as part of the New Teacher Center Teacher Induction Program. My goal is simply to improve more teachers' lives, just like Sharon had done for me, to guarantee the best possible results for all students. Thank you very much for your time.